Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. When cheating leads to success, but not for the cheater. It's a lengthy narrative, so feel free to skim it. I was searching for it the other day for someone who had requested, and when I found it, I read it and realized how deluded I had gotten with that guy. It made me sad because in the year that followed, I rapidly realized how poisonous our relationship actually was. He made me believe that everything was my fault, that I was weak and incapable of doing anything, that I had terrible agoraphobia to the point that I couldn't leave the home, and that I was scared of being alone. He used this and tormented me on many occasions. He did terrible things to me on a regular basis and gaslighted me frequently. But now I'm free, I'm headstrong, I'm out there, I've gotten a job, I've gotten a lot fitter, I've started college to retake my GCSEs, I'm taking driving lessons. All these things he said I'd never be able to do. I can now walk anywhere and everywhere and take buses I'm unfamiliar with. Trains, not so now, here I am successful. Without that worthless waste of space, who I hear is still doing the same nonsense. No work because he is gaming all day, neglecting his female friend, scrounging money from his mother for end of hours he never bothers with and so on. I wasn't the issue he painted me as. Unfortunately, it isn't finished yet. Despite the fact that we are divorced, he refuses to sign the clean break agreement and pay his portion of the divorce settlement. What's the point of publishing this? Well, I simply want to emphasize that just because someone cheats doesn't mean the world has come to an end. It may mean that your life is just getting started. Update. So my tale is a difficult one. It began on the 10th of February 2020 when my closest friend of 14 years and her 3-year-old child came to stay with us till she found a new place to live. I babysat her child for her while my husband took her to the store to purchase groceries. On one occasion, I was strolling with her, and she told me about her previous experiences with married guys. Oh, don't worry, of course, I know your spouse is off bounds. Everything was fine for a week, then I noticed something strange. He and her would frequently go into the kitchen alone, leaving me to babysit her son or watch TV by myself. I never believed anything was really happening, but I did start to wonder it was odd behavior, though I just figured I was jealous of the attention he seemed to be giving her. They did after all have a little more in common, but I just dismissed this as I was jealous of the attention he seemed to be giving her my husband, and I had been together for 9.5 years, married for 3 years this May. One night, I walked into the kitchen, and they both suddenly pulled apart from one another. I thought it was strange and told a friend about it, who agreed that it was very strange behavior. My husband told me he was just grabbing a fork for the pineapple he was eating and being the ever-devoted loving wife. I believed him. My best friend, whom I gave a place to live and food for, would never do anything like that to me. We were too close, and honestly, I didn't think my loyal, wonderful, loving husband would ever do it either. Life between us was great. Then February 22nd rolled around. My husband tells me he didn't love me any longer. He said he hadn't loved me since before we got married. And he continued to say things like, because of your autism, you so. After many hours of chatting, I left the home, saddened that my marriage was now ended. I had no clue there was an issue between us, so I found a marital counseling agency after asking my husband if he would be interested in trying it, and he had agreed. After a few days, I'm still hopeful that we can repair our relationship and get things back on track. I went back to my house to pick up a few items. I hadn't told him I was coming because it was my house and I didn't think it would matter. As I walked up the path, I saw someone run upstairs. I thought nothing of it at the time. When I opened the door, my BFF child came to greet me, happy to see me and wanting, so I left feeling discouraged. And it took a whole week and approximately 3 days for me to finally question my husband, whether he and her had gotten together. These are the messages that followed me. Hey, well, conspiracy theories are circulating a lot as a result of what you and your BFF are doing. Have you been unfaithful to me with her? I'll trust you if you claim you haven't, because I know you wouldn't do anything like that. But are you two a couple? I know it's a silly question to ask, but a lot of people have stated you have, and honestly, I need documentation to say I asked lol, even your best buddy felt you were cheating, haha. Husband, who came up with that plot? We've broken up, therefore whatever I've done with anybody now has nothing to do with you, and I didn't cheat on you. Me, a few individuals, my buddy was first to suggest it. I hope you aren't. I realize it's none of my concern, but BFF is like a sister to me. That would be the end of our friendship if she did that. Dad believes it was all a ruse, that you threw me out so you could spend time with your BFF, haha. I was still shouting, "Ha ha," since the very concept made me laugh, and I felt he should know I wasn't taking the charges seriously because I didn't want to come off as crazed or envious. Husband: well, your father is incorrect. You know my motives for the breakup, and it's ridiculous that you'd accuse me of it. But, as I already said, everything I do from now on will have nothing to do with you. Me: are you sure? Husband: I see you're looking for an answer. The problem is that we have considered it. Yes, we did get together. I was upset and furious. It meant there was no hope for us. I needed to talk to my best friend. Certainly, she would feel awful. Could she really have done that to me after all I had done for her? Me: I opened the door to my house, give you and your kid a place to live, and this is how I'll be compensated? BFF: oh, you make it seem like this was all planned, but it wasn't. Me: does it mean you're okay with getting involved with my husband? BFF: technically, you two are no longer together. Me: I can't believe you would betray me like this. I don't care about the things you don't do. BFF: and here's one of them. You stabbed me behind my back. BFF: I'm not blaming anybody. But it takes two to tango. Yes, I should not have done it. No, I am not proud of what I have done. And yes, I have been terrified of telling you. I know I've lost you as a friend and another, and that's bad, and I don't blame you for not wanting to speak to me again, TBF. I really appreciate how much you have helped me over the years, particularly now, and I thank you, and you surely do not deserve this. I'm not going to cut it, but please accept my heartfelt apologies. I honestly believe she only apologized because she was caught out. Later that day, I was told that they had started a relationship 2 days after I left the house. I was angry, I hated them both, and she certainly owed me far more than before. A lot of people suggested that I kick them out and reclaim my home, but I'm too nice, and they both had nowhere else to go. I wasn't going to send them to the streets. The house she was supposed to move to was a better location for me personally. I suffer from anxiety and agoraphobia, so leaving the house from where I live is very difficult for me. That coupled with not being able to drive is even more difficult. So I asked my BFF if she could keep my house and I take hers. My house is in a better location for her, and since she doesn't have any problems leaving my house to go out places, it would be better for her than me. It was also me, BFF. Would you mind assisting me? Please, I've always been there when you needed me. Please repay the favor just once. You owe me after all I've done for you. BFF, please. I'm pleading. BFF, please. That is my residence. Me? Please, BFF, I offered you my house when you had nowhere else to go. I lost a lot for you, please. I helped you when you needed it the most. I babysat your kid while you were gone. I was a shoulder for you. Please, I gave you my home. Can't you reciprocate? Please, BFF, I implore you. BFF, I'm not giving up that home. It's not fit for our requirements. My house was literally built for families to live in. Me? I did you a huge favor and lost a lot for you. Well, it could be suitable for you. Besides, child will grow. Can't you at least try and find somewhere else downtown? BFF, it isn't you who is homeless right now. I could have demanded you leave after you stabbed me in the back for all the good I did, please. I'm sure your spouse will be more than delighted to assist you in getting the home in the form you want. I'm desperate, and you're not confined like I am. The messages continued. Frankly, I knew she would never say yes, but felt I should point out my entire argument because it would show just how ungrateful and nasty she truly was. She continued to off my house in ways that don't even make sense, saying it wasn't suitable for a child despite the fact the house is in amazing condition. There is literally nothing wrong with the house at all. She even made light of my inability to leave the home. I was stuck. I couldn't go home because my husband said it wouldn't be fair to the child to be in such a tense situation, so I had to stay with my parents. On March 2nd, my husband wanted to meet me for whatever reason, but I was icy to him. I wasn't going to show any mercy, and I definitely didn't plan on taking him back either. But as we sat in the car talking, he began to into my arm and said how much he wanted our lives to return to normal, how much he regretted getting with my BFF and really wanted us to be on good terms, how much he missed me and couldn't sleep knowing I wasn't in his life any longer, so I chose to give him another chance. I didn't make that decision lightly, but I knew I had to be on my guard. He consented to get tested in order to show himself to me. He went right home, broke up with his BFF, and remained at his mother's place for 2 days while my BFF gathered her belongings and departed for her new home, which was far from ready for her and her small kid to live in comfortably. We ended up getting together that night, despite my intention not to. That week was both wonderful and awful for me. I began to love him again, and I spent a lot of time telling him that we were okay and that I thought we could make it. He would simply grin and say he hoped so, but he informed me on one occasion that he still had emotions for BFF. He spent the entire week telling me how much he loved me, how much he wanted me, how much he chose me, and how much he wanted our relationship to work, how he felt bad that he hadn't given our relationship a chance to fix itself, and I believed him. I proved a lot to him, that I could change for him, and I spent the week making sure he knew that. But of course, everything came to an end on March 16th when I returned home and he was behaving strangely. I asked him what was wrong, and he told me then, not texts, "Husband, I should definitely tell you something, but I don't think you'll like it." Me? A sighs, "Well, now that you've said it, you may as well tell me what it is." Husband, "Well, when we broke up, myself and my BFF were seeing each other. She was with me while you were sleeping. I shouldn't have been, but I was startled and furious. I felt he exploited me after I welcomed him back into my life, and I began to weep, despite my best efforts to keep it in check. Something inside of me snapped, and in a flash of wrath, I kicked a box as hard as I could, breaking my toe. I raced upstairs to check on my foot, and my husband followed, then took me back down to put peas on my toes. He then informed me that he and her had been messaging all week about how much they loved each other. More was said, but I can't recall the full discussion, but I do remember him saying, "Well, you wanted me to stay for 1 week to help settle things, and that's what you got." I realized then that he had no intention of remaining with me and was just using me as a temporary residence until BFF home was complete. I stormed to the kitchen and deleted her number from his phone. I texted her telling her off, calling her a name, and telling her to never talk to either of us again. Then I came back to him angry. I was hurt, and I honestly just wanted to hit him. But I'm not a violent person, so I sat down quietly while he went upstairs and started packing his things, telling me he was going to move in with her. The rage built inside me, isn't this a great image? It's a shame it didn't mean anything to you. I threw it hard on the ground. The frame but the picture and glass were okay. He became enraged and began approaching me, yelling at me for being so immature. He stormed past me and I followed, picking up another picture. Oh, and this one. Just after we finished our wedding dance practice, and you're making the flowers for our wedding cake. When I dropped it on the ground, it broke to pieces, strangely symbolic of my heart and how his cruel comments had caused me to. I felt so used and useless that I just started yelling at him. Me, how are you going to do this to me again? You're an evil jerk. I can't use the actual term on here, since I don't like to swear, but he really did make me flip. After I cooled down, I talked to his mother, who backed me and was unhappy that he was doing this because she raised him better than that. So now it's the 18th, and I received a message from him saying I was one step away from being an abusive wife, despite the fact that I never once laid a finger on him or even attempted to, which is laughable because he has hit me in the past and I've never been violent like that in my life. Due to my ADHD, I have had anger problems in the past, but it never led to violence. I was always kind and attended to his needs and was there for him when before all of this occurred. Life with him was wonderful. We seldom fought. We were constantly playing games together and on the same page. We were the sort of couple who could complete each other's sentences. We were planning for children, and my family adored him as if he were one of their own.